gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
So, yeah. Basically, we're gonna just destroy everything Ian built and burn it all. Viva la revolution. Geeky gentlemen should now become Geeks for Fun 2.0. Oh, hello everyone! I didn't see you there. I am a Geek for Fun. And joining me...
Oh, fuck. Oh, God. We're already fucking this up. I'm that Matt kid. What's up?
You nailed it, my beautiful brother. You nailed
Yes!
it. And the reason I'm extra excited is because we're going to be talking about a very, very weavy topic that I would have never been able to get away with while Ian was here. So this is part of the new flavour that you're going to get while it's just me and Matt ranting and raving about our very similar childhood interests.
Seriously.
What are we talking about?
We are talking about Naruto. For those of you who are unaware, Naruto is a popular manga / anime, Japanimation, about a young blonde boy who has aspirations to become the greatest ninja of all the ninjas. Some good stuff. We're going to talk about the first story arc of the anime, and I guess the manga. I don't know. I haven't read the manga.
No, yeah,
but the first story arc of the anime, which is the Zabuza arc, named after the villain of the arc, Mr. Zabuza Mamochi.
Just like Dragon Ball, which we have talked on Geeky Jedi before, Naruto likes to name its arcs after villains and tournaments. That's kind of just as everything just kind of took that trend. But yeah, why I wanted to talk about Zabuza is because I feel like with such a long running manga, it's tough to approach it as a discussion topic or just a review topic. As if you're gonna say let's just review Naruto, you couldn't. There's just so much. There's just so much with so many different things, with so many different strengths and weaknesses that are sometimes reversed in other parts of the series. So it's almost like you're talking about a different kind of show. That it is hard to review it as one piece. What I want to do, if anyone who hasn't checked it out, is I would recommend going and do these episodes themselves, because I guess we'll see if you disagree with it, Matt. This does tell a self-contained story, relatively.
It does, for sure. And a little bit of background here, I actually did grow up being a very big Naruto fan. I probably haven't seen as much of it as you. I've seen most of the original Naruto anime and, like, chunks of Shippuden. I didn't get super far into Shippuden. I think I just was moving on to other things. But this particular story arc, I had the, like, first... Because, like, they had this in, like, DVD box set volumes, and I had the first DVD box set, which was pretty much just the Zabuza arc. So I've seen this first Zabuza arc several times as a kid growing up. And I really like it. It was really fun to go back to this because I haven't watched this in, I mean, probably like almost a decade. I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched this. So it was really cool to go back to and relive it. And I think it tells not only a really good self-contained story, I think it very effectively sets up kind of the universe. I love the way that, you know, there's not a big ninja war going on. They're not fighting some super powerful master planner, evil shinobi. They're just fighting this rogue ninja. The stakes are actually pretty low here. Most of the big emotional moments are just from, like, personal stakes and personal storytelling. There's not, like, huge, massive, like, no, all that's at risk is this bridge and the what that bridge means for this really small country. And it's just this very small, kind of low stakes story that gets you invested in the characters. And Zabuza himself, I think, is a very interesting villain just as a character without having to be this super huge mega threat. So it's a really effective opener to the series.
And what I think is most interesting about this, before I go into specific details of I'll make sure there's a gap where anyone who's listening who hasn't watched it yet can be able to get like a sense of where we think, and then we'll go into more specific details with spoilers and such. What I think is interesting about this arc of Naruto, the fact that this sets up the series, I can't think of anything else where the very first arc is about deconstructing the premise.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Where everything you start off with Naruto and his teammates, they get on their team and it's kind of lighthearted and they've got the wacky teacher and then they get like moral lessons in it, but still most of all you're keeping it kind of lighthearted with like gags and stuff and everything. It's typical kind of just young kids going on an adventure. So what you've been told through the status quo is there's going to be some heavy elements, but by and large this is a fun series that's going to be about these kids learning life lessons along the way. Yippee-dee-da-day. The very first arc is about how fucked up it is that they've made child soldiers, and this is the consequences of what happens, what ninjas are. This is not fun and games. These are life or death missions, and this is how it dehumanizes people, and this is why this needs to change and is wrong. That is like... That's like if Action Comics #1 was written like Watchmen. It's like, you don't do that straight away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the way that that's kind of shown with Zabuza and his mask of bandages that he wears, Haku and Haku's mask, and the way that those things play into thematically what the story is trying to say about the dehumanization of them, and the way that the first thing they come up against is someone so absolutely brutal. You know, this is a stupid comparison, but it's like when you're watching The Incredibles and she's having that conversation with her kids and they're like, no, these are not Saturday morning cartoon villains, they will kill you. And it's got that same air of like, holy shit, like, oh, okay, well then. And it's and like when Sasuke is freaking out during the first conflict because he just can't handle it. He's like, I've never been in this situation, and like if I do the wrong thing, if I like take the slightest wrong breath or divert my eyes, I'm dead. And he's like, I can't handle that because I don't know how to be in that situation. And it's really interesting watching the three Genin try to react to what this mission throws at them, and it creates a really amazing, I mean, you really get a good feeling of watching these three characters grow. It's really cool the way that's all handled.
Definitely. I think that's where the focus largely is, because plot-wise, there is some elements of like twists and turns and mysteries. There are definitely surprises to be had, but all the surprises are kind of just, oh, I didn't expect that character to do that. Oh, I didn't expect this character. There's not really any information that's being super hidden from the audience. We get introduced to Zabuza before the heroes do. We get introduced to all the stuff behind the mysteries and everything that the heroes don't know. We, the audience, know. But what we are surprised about is how these events form these characters' bonds emotionally and otherwise, and why they make these decisions. Which I think is just a very good example of good writing, of where you've got a solid plot, but you do not sacrifice the characters in service of that. You use your characters to enrich and develop and live in that. And I think a very good example of that is Kakashi, where we introduce Kakashi as this super competent teacher figure, and very quickly establish that no one is going to be able to touch, like, from as far as you know, just by watching this, it's like, oh my god, Kakashi's untouchable, he's like the coolest guy ever. But you make sure to keep a reason why are even the kids here, why are we even following this, is you see this is Kakashi also, like you mentioned earlier, is also wearing a mask. Kakashi's lived in this world, he's kind of accepted it, he's accepted the rules of everything, and what the heroes we follow, why the show is called Naruto, is because we, the audience, get to see Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura kind of be like, no, this is bullshit. We don't have to live in the rules the adults have made. They are stronger than us, they are smarter than us, they can do all these better techniques than us, but we can still win just because we don't think this is right. We don't think these things should be. One of the funniest things I always see, which comes at the show as like a dig, But it's intentional, is the fact, oh, Naruto's not a ninja, he wears bright orange and blue. That's not stealthy, that's short shadow. But that's the point, because Kakashi, Zabuza, and everyone actually do wear stealthy clothing. Naruto's bright and bold and orange because he's meant to show you immediately he's not following the mold. He's going to change things. And I think that's such a... to get you invested in a main character that can come across as... because, again, these are children... can come across as whiny or annoying, like, very easily. And sometimes they do, and I think that could be a conversation about how far do they go in certain areas. But I think just thematically, it's a very great thing to be able... even if you didn't watch the rest of the series, you could infer, oh, okay, this kid's going to try and change things. This kid has an idea, and he's not the smartest, but he's got the heart for it. And for, like, shonen manga storytelling, that's, like, as good as it can get. That's, like, the point of it, right? So all of that thematically is so solid here. It really does feel like, because with long running manga you can kind of lose the original intention sometimes, like Akira Toriyama is talking about, just put a chapter out every week, and some days you don't know what you're going to come out next week. You can't have the time to plan it. But this early part of Naruto feels so intricately, every part of this is so plotted out. From the characters to the powers to the world, like, you instantly get bit after bit after bit.
Nope. No, it's good stuff. The way they dole out sort of slow, steady bits of exposition for how the world works, how the powers function, things like that. They're always introducing something new and adding a new wrinkle to it, but at the same time always keeping you invested in the moment to moment what's going on and keeping you invested in the characters. And they also make a lot of the revelations personal to the characters, like the revelation of the Sharingan, for example, and things like that. They manage to reveal those things in ways that are significant because of the characters you have with us. It's not like Kakashi reveals his Sharingan eye and everyone's just like, okay, well, who cares? Because we have Sasuke with us. And we immediately see the incredible impact that has on Sasuke. So the story does a really good job of using its characters to more effectively give us that exposition, and they do it in ways that are clever, so it doesn't just feel like, okay, here's how the world works. They dole it out in certain ways, like when they're climbing the trees and Sakura talks, you get that Sakura kind of explaining how the chakra system works and things like that. So they don't front load it, and they space it out, and they give you that expository information for just how the universe works in ways that are entirely character based and character motivated, which is good, because that's one of the things I hate with really high fantasy stuff, is exposition dumps before I even care about the characters, because I don't care about your stupid world. Invest me in the characters and then explain to me why I should care about the world through the characters. And I think this does that fairly effectively.
I mean, that's the best example of what you're talking about, is the reason why we care, and kind of even before we really see any in action, we get a glimpse of the third one here, but the reason we care and have this importance of the Hokage, because Naruto won't shut up about it.
Yeah.
That's his goal, that's his mission, so you've made the character's passion for part of the world a reason why the audience can be like, oh yeah, that's important. That if they could have easily just settled on, like many things do, it's just, oh, that's the leader, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, we've seen it many times. But this is the primary goal of the series from episode 1. They tell you Naruto wants to be that, and what does that mean? And that's why very much the first arc of that is explain, okay, so you want to be the leader of the ninjas. This is what a ninja is. This is everything you could possibly want to know about what being a ninja means in Naruto, which is also very good for an introduction. Past this point, you'll have questions about lore and different clans and such, but this is basically what ninjas are in Naruto. This never changes. This is just what they are. They go on missions, and they have different classes, and there are different villages that have different ninjas that fight. There you go. This is that examined as thoroughly as it can be and made into an arc. So you get immediately why, okay, this is how hardcore these guys are, and you want to lead them? You want to be the president of the ninjas? Okay, good luck. I mean, you have fun. It's very good at making you get the stakes of the goal of the series.
Yeah.
while also being like, this is the premise we have, and it deals with something that's very historically just the word ninja is linked to just assassins, right? It's just linked to killing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get around that. Doing that for a manga aimed at young boys could be like, oh, well, we're going to tone it down. But like Naruto, they admittedly do tone some things down in the anime, but like to the degree where it doesn't even matter, it's just less gory. It's still the same implication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still just like, holy cow, they really just explaining like, this is what a world full of ninjas would be like. Every single dark thing you've just imagined, then that's it here. Which is like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like that might turn some people off, or do you think that might justify the premise for people who are like, I don't want to, this kid's just saying believe it, it's goofy?
If you didn't have that, then Naruto saying believe it all the time would be inexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you didn't have that, because Naruto's obnoxious attitude is not charming enough to be this, like, to carry you for a super fun, lighthearted romp.
He's not Goku.
Yeah, exactly. But when you take this super fun, lighthearted kid who just, he believes in himself and he's going to be the best, and then you're just like, okay, you want to be the best, here's what it takes. And then you throw him against a world that just wants to fucking ruin his day. Then suddenly you've justified that. And then it's, can he keep this attitude in a world that looks like this? And that's why it's...
You cut out for
was out there...
Oh,
sorry. That's why it's so interesting that in all these arcs, Naruto's out there changing hearts and minds. Because that's... It's sort of like that Superman thing. He's this force of unbridled will and optimism in this world that is just brutal at times. And so I feel like if you didn't do that, then Naruto would not work as a character the way he's written.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very strong point, actually. I think that's also why you can make... I guess just sticking on Naruto first, because I think that's a good segue to talk about the individual cast members, because so much of this is character-based, right? We kind of covered as much of the plot as we can without going into heavy spoilers. Naruto as a protagonist is really unique in that aspect, because he does carry a lot of, obviously just from his outfit and the blonde hair and the orange and blue costume, like, and every main character post Dragon Ball in Shonen takes elements from Goku. There's very much the same way that superheroes take a lot from Superman. It's just everyone's either kind of like a repercussion of him or a response to him. Naruto sits in a good place where he's got that happy-go-lucky exterior, right? But unlike a character like, say, even Luffy, Naruto's is kind of a front.
Yes, which I love.
That kid goes through so much, and you get that like immediately. Like Naruto, one of the things it's infamous for is the do like the sad music with the swings and the sad backstories. Anyone getting this for the first time has a couple of tissues ready, because this show hates children and will make them suffer.
It does, yeah.
So Naruto, they get you immediately invested in the character, who, if you didn't have that knowledge, like you say, wouldn't be able to justify being like that all the time. He'd be one-dimensional. But every interaction with Naruto you have, and you know his backstory, and you know the pain this guy went through, it immediately makes you look at those interactions a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, Naruto does not have the conversation that he has with Zabuza or with, like, Gaara later in the series. Those conversations can't happen unless Naruto exists in a story where his backstory is allowed to be tragic. And he's an archetype that I really like, which is the character who acts really confident and goofy because they're hiding some deep either insecurity or pain or something like that. That's an archetype I'm always into. I do think they go a tad bit obnoxious in the beginning of the show. Like, I think it's fair to say that if you're watching this, the way Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura are written in the first handful of episodes before they actually leave on the journey, I think it would be fair to be like, they really kind of turned me off with the way those characters are written, because they're all obnoxious little shits. Like, they are. Like, Sakura's a bitch, Naruto's an obnoxious little shit, Sasuke just thinks he's too cool for all this shit and is the reason why neckbeards think cargo shorts are cool. But then they go on the adventure, and you get to see these moments where, like, Naruto goes to talk to Sakura for help, and Sasuke and Naruto actually start to get along and work together. And you're just like, oh, wait, of course they're obnoxious little shits. They're children. They're immature children. And then they are forced to go through something that makes them mature, and you get to know them. And you're just like, oh, so by the end of this arc, I actually like these characters. Whereas at the beginning, I hate them. And I think it's fair if you watch the first couple episodes before it really gets going and get turned off by that, because I feel like it almost does its job too well.
Yeah, that's the thing I think a lot of people... And sadly, I think this is stuck super hard for Sakura. It's one of the most infamous things in the fandom that, for some reason, everyone just hates Sakura. And there are legitimate criticisms. The fact that even though Naruto and Sasuke get a fight, she doesn't get to do something in this arc there is a purpose to that, right? There is a plan afoot to give her her own arc of coming from nothing and then becoming a ninja without any special bloodline powers or any teaching, truly doing it on her own, unlike anyone else in the series. But like your point you hit on Spawn, it does it too well. It buries it so far that if you are just watching and you're not looking for it, and you don't stick around to see that payoff, you will just be like, oh, Sakura's just annoying. She doesn't even do anything. Like, why is she here? Like, it is one of those things where it's just like, there is a good arc here, and in a long-running serialized thing, you can play with those arcs. But another thing to consider is some people will, if you play it too strong, some people will get turned off and write off a character forever. It's really hard to change a first impression, and thankfully I think they do it well with Naruto and Sasuke particularly as well. I think everyone does. Sakura's the one, I think, especially because she is one of the only main female characters here, if not the only one, is the one that comes across the most like, they really should have held back in some areas on that, just to give them those little nuggets. And there are those there. That scene where she sees the kid who's sick, and the scene when she talks about the ninja rules and not being able to cry. Like, there are good moments here, but they are kind of spaced between things that I've seen other fans do. Like, I don't have this opinion, but I've seen other fans who just like, it almost ruined the thing for me. So that is a shame. One thing I think would keep people going in those early episodes, who is instantly just like, you're the best, is Kakashi. Yes.
For sure.
I haven't met a single person who's watched Naruto who doesn't like Kakashi. It is insane how likable he is. He is definitely one of my favorite mentor figures in fiction. And why I like him so much is because he's the archetype of the lazy mentor. The mentor who is just tired of everyone's shit, but is so competent he can get away with it. Like, the dude reads books while he fights.
And we get to see over and over again, like, not only is he great obviously he's great against children, but you get to see that there's a method to his madness when he gives them their test that seems impossible, but that's like the point of the test. And you get to see like and that's always one of those like kind of cliche, but I kind of love it type things of like, the point of this test was to see how you reacted to the test itself, not to see if you actually like passed or failed in getting these bells. It was to see how you guys interacted and how you guys interacted in the aftermath of it.
It's very Jedi.
It's very Jedi, which is very cool. But you even get to see him when shit starts going down with Zabuza, and he starts revealing things about himself, and he starts, especially near the end of the arc, using some techniques that will still be important long from now.
They never go away.
Yeah, like the Sharingan and is it called the Chidori? Whatever.
Kakashi's is called Lightning Blade, and then the baby version of it is Chidori.
Yeah, those two things are going to be important for a while, and that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing as well. Like, Kakashi is one of those characters, like, he sticks around forever. So, and the good thing about Naruto as well is it doesn't have the problem of an overextended cast. a lot of long-running shows, a lot of long-running comics even, just long-running media in general, right, will have the problem of you'll establish characters early on, and then they won't stick around. Naruto does the very good job of they will introduce side characters that will not get used as much later on. We will give you that, but Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, till the very end. That is your main characters. Those are the characters that will be around and in the main plot throughout the entire series, which is hard. It's very hard to count characters like on the Dragon Ball. Like it's just Goku and Bulma. Like Yamcha goes, Qua goes, Oolong goes. I'm trying to think of other things, but comic books like Jimmy Olsen doesn't have a book anymore. Well, he does now, but he didn't for many decades. Like there's the characters often do fall by the wayside, like down to power creep. But because Naruto balances that by already introducing Kakashi as above our heroes, and they don't get anywhere close to him at the end of this. It's not even a contest. So you get to see the investment you make isn't wasted, I think is what I'm trying to say.
It handles it really well in a way that something like Ruby, I feel like, doesn't handle it super well.
That's a good point.
Like Ruby kind of has that same setup, right? You've got like a 4-person team, and they're all at this like ninja, I mean, obviously not ninja academy, but a warrior academy. There's different teams of people. And like even early Naruto, you introduce like Ino and Shikamaru and Choji, who in the early episodes, I'm just like, man, I really like those three. I wanna know more about their dynamic and what they've got going on, because I love them. I still like later in the show still love those characters. Same with like, you know, Rock Lee and Neji and fucking all them people. But we don't lose our focus. We introduce these characters who you can tell based on, you know, the main character game in anime. You can just be like, okay, well, they have some effort put into their designs, so they will probably be important at some point.
The drawings have a fickle outline.
Yeah, exactly. So you look at them and you're just like, okay, those are probably going to be important characters, and you get like a sense of who they are, but then we don't lose our focus. Whereas like Ruby kind of does the opposite, and we lose our focus very quickly. So like this really strikes that great balance. You know, Naruto, I think, is a pretty good example of how to build a world without losing the focus of what you're trying to do with your characters. It's good stuff, and especially this first arc really nails that.
Mm-hmm. And given all of that, then I think it's safe to go. If anyone isn't sold on that, that's kind of the non-spoiler thoughts. Just what the characters you care and give them a watch. I'll have a link in the description for actually where you can watch like the filler cut-out versions of this. But if you just look up the Zabuza arc, it's only like 20 episodes or something, and that might sound like a lot if you're not an anime watcher, but if you are an anime watcher, it's nothing.
Well, you know, it's actually kind of interesting because watching this, like I grew up watching the dubs on the DVD, which should have all the filler in it, but the first Zabuza arc, I couldn't really think of any. I didn't notice anything was missing, so yeah. They did a good job of, you know, the first arc is solid. I'm sure as we get farther into the show, if I keep watching what you sent, I'm sure I'll notice chunks missing. But this first arc, even in the like non-fan recut, just watching like just the normal ass subs or dubs, it's all good. They don't really waste a lot of screen time.
For sure, it's still well placed even then. So if you don't have to do a review, you can watch again just the full experience even. It's why I think this is a very strong choice to drop as a Naruto review if only anyone watch one video. But those who have already seen the series, and if you've watched the Zabuza arc by now, you know the whole series of Naruto surely, or at least the majority of stuff that comes after this. I doubt anyone would have watched Zabuza and then stopped. But there might be people out there. But yeah, I really want to talk about now. What do you think of the dynamic of Zabuza and Haku?
So makes me cry.
Oh yeah.
Ending makes me cry. You get this ending where Zabuza, we see his face for the first time because it's like the most human moment we have with Zabuza when Haku dies and he goes to avenge Haku's death. I love it. It's the whole like, it's this mentor and this kid that he obviously cares about while all the time saying that he doesn't care about him. It's gut-wrenching. Their dynamic is incredible. I absolutely love it, and it's sort of like, we're deconstructing that whole ninjas are supposed to be tools for their clan. They're supposed to be silent killers. They're supposed to be deadly. But what they do, they form these strong emotional bonds. They form these relationships in these teams. And there's not a way around being human. You just can't do it. And so they just kind of explore that with Zabuza and Haku. And those things work so well because Haku is like what Naruto could have become, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you get that a lot with like Haku and like Gaara and things like that. Like, these are characters that easily are what Naruto could have been, because Naruto and Haku both were cursed with this power from very early childhood or birth. Neither of them really had parents. I mean, Haku had parents that he then lost. Naruto was raised pretty much without parents. So, like, they have these kind of strong similarities, and Haku is easily what Naruto could have become. And I think that's why Naruto has this emotional connection to him and has this emotional moment with Zabuza saying, like, how can you just stand there and pretend that he didn't mean anything to you? I mean, it's such good stuff. I mean, that whole final sequence on the bridge after the fight, when Haku's dead, that whole bit just sells that is the cherry on top of this whole arc that just encapsulates it perfectly. I mean, it's heart-wrenching. It makes me tear up every time.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the most beautiful moments in the whole series.
And I like that it's not like we're gonna it's not a redemption story for Zabuza, which I think is really cool. It's not Zabuza is redeeming himself for being a bad person. It's like Zabuza is still, at the end of the day, a rogue ninja, a hired killer who has killed God knows how many innocent people. And he has no remorse about that, no regrets about that, even at the end. But he gets to have this moment where for a little bit, he gets to not be that. He gets to be the friend who lost the person closest to him, and that's it. And that's all he has to be in his last moments. And so it's not a redemption, it's just he's letting himself be human for the first time in decades. And it's so touching. But they don't shy away from the fact that he's still a cold-blooded murderer, but even the most cold-blooded murderer is still human. So it's good. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of I guess Zabuza and his relationship with Haku. I would like to see. I know I mentioned the Jedi thing, but like, this is the only thing I could ever imagine of how you would do a light side Sith. Like, if that makes any sense. Like, just the idea of like the mentor and the tool, but they still can't, and they are the most dedicated to the mission they possibly can. Naruto's all about, alright, these ninjas have a job to do. They are trained to be weapons, and they are weapons for their people. They've been through all these wars, they've got these warring nations. This is just a fact of life. And how strong you are is normally how dependent you can be on stripping away your humanity. So when Haku and Zabuza turn up and they're these massive threats, and they seemingly are cold, emotionless, ruthless killers, it puts our heroes like, well, damn, we don't have that edge, we can't do that. But then the reveals start coming. Actually, Haku didn't kill anyone. Haku was too kind, and that was his strength. Zabuza, the guy who is fighting Kakashi, and he's basically given up at that point, right? He's just gonna die. The moment Haku's corpse gets his face kicked in, he's like, I don't even care if I've got no arms anymore. Throw me a knife. Bites him with his hand, with his jaw, and then uses his mouth to kill like dozens of people. Like, it's insane. Like, it is awesome, but it also tells you just how much the strongest power in this world isn't the magic or the jutsus or the removing of emotions. It's that core of humanity, that these guys aren't weapons. No matter what happens to them, Zabuza is a bastard, but even he is not just their weapon. He is a human being. He's not just a demon.
I mean, Naruto doesn't unleash the Kyuubi until he sees his friend die.
Exactly. It's one of those things. Well, to his recollection, which is still, that's another sad moment. Like if you are watching this for the first time, you could buy that as like, well, they killed the rival off like that early. Like some other people like no, because Naruto is so big, and like the whole Naruto Sasuke, that's like its own meme at this point. So
oh yeah, for sure.
I'd be hard pressed to find someone who would like find that these days, but it is a shocking moment to see that happen so early on, and it also, I think, is such a strong narrative choice that it's almost like how, I would just avoid comparisons, the strength of the work speaks for itself, but like they present you a way this could have gone. In a simpler story, Haku would kill Sasuke, and then Naruto would get mad and kill the bad guy. The end. This is not a simple story. So Sasuke does not die because Haku had more depth to him, and Naruto doesn't kill Haku because he shows mercy. And then when Haku dies, self-sacrifice, and then Zabuza dies, self-sacrifice. So the only people who die are the villains, and both of them by their own accord, which is insane. That is such good writing. Like, this is not a victory at the end. You have saved the bridge, you defeated. We thankfully have still got. It understands why you should still have like a bastard. What is the real villain of Naruto? We straight away say capitalism. It's the rich man. It's the short little rich man ordering everyone about. It's not these guys.
It's the person who does actually view them as tools.
Exactly. It's the system. It's the systems that are in place that force these things to even exist. And that's what Naruto has to fight at the end. He realizes that he's not going to fight the big evil monster. He's gonna have to fight the things that creates the big evil monsters, or what forces people to become those. And that sticks throughout the entire series. So Zabuza and Haku, their whole dynamic and how it ends is tragic, and how it begins is just as tragic. Like, one thing I want to know is just like, Haku's dad, Jesus.
Yeah.
Dude.
No, that bit, holy shit. I'm like, just like, wow, okay.
Like, it gets so real. Like, because it's not like it's the anime thing of like the over exaggerated reactions. It's like the Haku's like, oh look, mommy, I can make ice, and it's just like, get inside, and it's like, whoa, this just got, that was like, that's the most shocking bit of violence in this whole arc, is not the giant ninja lightning blades, it's the mother just so really just, it's like, whoa, like that's the stuff that it grounds the fantastical in, without removing the wonder and the joy you get from the fantastical. It never gets realistic or gritty, I should say. It never tries to suck the fun out of it. It still keeps the character, like Kakashi's still making quips, Naruto's still just as bombastic as he is, but it toes such a fine line between the darkest of the dark and the lightest of the light that gives it such a unique flavor, which I think is, and Zabuza and Haku kind of betray that, with Zabuza being just a straight edge, like badass kind of lone ninja, but he's wielding like a buster sword.
And it's, going back and rewatching this is also fascinating, knowing how the rivalry between Sasuke and Naruto develops is so kind of, it makes going back and watching this kind of sad, because you see these moments where they could have been they could have absolutely been the best of friends. They could have been an unstoppable duo. And there are these just moments where they're like both at the top of the tree, and he's like, you ready to go back? And he's like, yep. And it's like, it's so touching and heartwarming, and like they clearly care about each other, but they just end up going in different directions because of Sasuke's obsession and things like that. It's just, going back and rewatching this is almost just as gut-wrenching as it's more gut-wrenching, because you know what's going to happen, and because it's just so it does its job very well in regards to the way these characters change and grow and come to care about each other, only to have that distance be created.
And I think a lot of that also applies to Sakura. In just like, again, like in the non-spoiler part for people who don't know the future, I would be fair and be like, well, she's not as best as she will be in here. But like seeing Sakura, she goes from the class bitch, the popular pretty girl who hates everyone superficially, just like Sasuke, just because he's hot, And she very quickly gets that beaten out of her once she sees that he's not what she imagines him to be, once he actually starts talking to her. And she kind of like backs away from him because she starts to see that he's got like a darkness inside of him. But then she sees how hard he and Naruto work, and she even starts to warm to Naruto and Kakashi, because they get through such a life and death moment. Like when Naruto has that moment where he gets his headband knocked off, and he gives that speech to Zara, and he gets up, and then Sakura's just like, holy, that's the kid? Because, again, it's almost like an audience thing, is we know what Naruto's been through and everything, but to them, they just think he is the two-dimensional character he sometimes presents himself as. And I think that's all there is to him. And same with Sakura Sasuke, it's just that she thinks he's just the beshoded, like, love of his other life kind of thing, until she starts to see more and more about him. And it's a slow burn, but it also is so hard, because you also see, oh, well, maybe they are getting through to him, and maybe they will find him. He's in a better place. Oh, no, oh God. Like, it's very much that thing, and it's all in this first arc. You have the hints of that. You get the first drop of, there's someone I have to kill. You get the first drop of Kakashi keeping that extra, like, eye on Sasuke, like, what's that Sasuke? You get those early instances of Sakura kind of feeling she's the one who kind of gets the societal thing the most out of her. She's the one walking among the people. She's the one kind of feeling the butt. She's with the bridge builder the whole time, and they're talking about it themselves. You get these kids who have to grow up fast, but at the end of the day, they are still just kids, and all of them end up breaking down by the end of this. They've had a really rough time.
Yeah. I don't have much more to add on that front. I mean, yeah, Sasuke he just starts as this typical, like, I'm the dark emo sad boy. I'm cool and I'm mysterious. And then the show's like, okay, but why would someone actually be that way? And it's like, oh shit. And that's exactly what Sakura goes through. It's just like, oh, he's this cool badass. And it's like, I didn't just wake up and decide I'm going to be like the cool badass guy. Like, no, this got thrust upon me because my life is fucking miserable and I have to deal with the consequences of what my brother has done. And it's great. It's good stuff. And it's cool how much like late Naruto series stuff gets set up here. I mean, from get-go, from the end of this arc, you know that Sasuke wants to kill his brother, because he even says, like, he even mentions like his brother. So like, you know, by the end of this arc where this is gonna go.
Everyone's path is very clear, and it's one of those things where I feel like it's one of those things where I got into Naruto around I'd seen some of the episodes like Fox Kids, like the earlier stuff, but I didn't like get into the series proper until like around the Pain arc, where after that I went back and watched it all, and then I was reading the manga week to week as it came out. Like, it was one of the best experiences of just like living in that moment of like, wow, this is new content coming out every week. So Naruto has like it's hard to divorce myself from it as like going through it the first time and not knowing where things are going. But yeah, all the setups here, you get the name drops for every single village in this already, and you're not going to see a lot of those for a very long time, so it's crazy. I'd be so curious to know just how much of this was worked out. Kishimoto has spent, in interviews, he's talked about that, he knew exactly how it was going to end, what the final chapter, what the final scene would be, but a lot in the middle he didn't know. But it does feel to me that this is very much all this setup with Sasuke and the main four characters specifically is he knew exactly where all of them were gonna go, so it makes it easier to structure arcs around that, especially an opening arc which will get them that. Even if the details you don't know, as long as you know emotionally where these characters will go, you as a writer, and I think this is a good lesson for anyone who wants to do long-running storytelling, if you know your end game, you can make up the plot and the details later. Just keep in mind that emotional path, and you can make intersects. Alright, this character needs to be taken to this place. I'll make these events to take them here. This to this to this to this, etc. Right? It's Luke on A New Hope to Luke on Return of the Jedi. Lucas made a lot in the middle, but he got Luke needs to become a man by the end of this series who's not looking for his father anymore, who saved his father, right? It's that, but like applied to a long kind of mythic storytelling trope. Given you watched, did you watch this with your, or has she ever seen Naruto before this?
I did not watch it with her, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry. I meant to.
I was gonna be like, oh, well, there's a thing about the new person, get into it.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the things apart from that, then, were there any things in this that didn't work for you on this one?
Well, kind of. I want to talk about more superficial kind of anime stuff.
Oh, sure.
Look, I understand the point of Naruto giving all these speeches and things like that. I find a lot of them really hard to sit through. I find it very... There's a lot here I like, and I get that that's part of the point, but there's also a lot of, like, constant obnoxious, like, all right, Naruto and Sasuke just teamed up to do this super awesome, like, shadow shuriken attack where the second shuriken was hiding in the shadow of the first one, but the second shuriken turned out to be Naruto the whole time. And then we sit here for like 5 minutes and explain that that's exactly what just happened, while showing flashbacks of the exact same animation you just saw 2 minutes ago, but in like sepia tone. And I'm like, this gets so fucking old. Like, oh my god. And it's cool, right? Because like, so like one thing I like about early Naruto fights, like let's take the first fight with Zabuza and Kakashi. What I like about this fight is that it's this idea that at that level, ninja fights are over in like 5 moves. And I love that. Like at that level, ninja fights are, this guy makes an attack, this guy has his way of countering it or like seeing it coming, and then will the original guy see that coming? And it's like ninja fight over in like 5 moves.
It's like a Kurosawa film.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's over in 5 moves. That's it. And at that level, when you're that good of a ninja and you can predict, like, okay, if I do this, they're probably going to do that. If they do that, I'm probably going to have to do this. Boom, 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 boom. And then the fight's over in like 5 minutes. I kind of love that. That kind of goes away later as we get these more super mega bombastic, just like, I guess, DBZ fights, for lack of a better phrase. And that's fine. Those have their place. They're entertaining. I'm not about to sit here and be like, Gaara versus Rock Lee is a boring fight. Like, no, I'm not going to say that. But I liked that here, that both fights with Kakashi and Zabuza are actually really short fights. They're just padded out by monologues and flashbacks. And that's just kind of an anime thing that irritates the shit out of me. And it takes me out a lot. Because I like that idea a lot. Because even in the later fight, it's like they attack, he attacks, then he gets him into, he purposely lets himself gets attacked, uses the blood on the scroll, summons the dog, fight's over. It's like it's a handful of moves and the fight's done, because that's how good they are. And I actually really like that. And that's just kind of not the case later in the show. But obviously that's something as a positive for this. But the way, like the moment-to-moment way the episodes are structured, where they'll do something cool, then spend 5 minutes explaining why what they just did was cool, I'm just like, okay, Jesus, you could have summarized that in like a sentence and moved on, but whatever. And it's less painful watching it this way, where it's all edited together, but it's way more painful if you're watching it like episode end credits, episode opening credits.
But even then, the recaps have been cut down in this version.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, at least.
That is the biggest reason why I recommend this, is that it is not, even though there are some other things in Naruto that get like the filler examples, like there'll be more filler episodes, but because this is such a straight shot adaptation, instead of filler episodes, they just made the first 5 minutes of every episode the last episode and a recap about it, and that is consistent throughout the whole thing, and it is the worst it ever gets. It's even bad in the manga of this. It really feels like Kishimoto was trying to figure out how to do the fights, and he wasn't quite sure how much he should be explaining, so he didn't have faith in his audience to get it. Is what it reads like. And
that's just frustrating watching it. it just makes me feel like I'm watching something that's supposed to be for kids, even though there's all this and I mean it kind of is, like, don't get me wrong, it kind of is like yeah, there's some dark shit, but I mean you can watch it.
It is still again shown in young boys.
It is still shown in Jump, but I'm just like, guys, you can trust your audience that they're going to understand what's going on. And if you have to explain this shit, you can probably explain it in a way that's more simple or something. And that's a problem I have with anime in general. It's just the level of expository dialogue. It grinds the pacing to a halt for me. Because I love that first Zabuza fight is not about overpowering Zabuza, it's about outsmarting him. And I kind of love that, and I kind of wish that had continued more. I mean, it does continue in moments in the whole long-running Naruto thing, but I like that it's purely a 5-move battle of wits between him and Kakashi that Kakashi loses, and then it's, okay, we cannot beat this guy, but how can we outsmart him, and how can we free Kakashi? And like that's just really cool. It's like it's a really solid like first fight against a really powerful opponent, and I just feel like the pacing of it suffers so badly because of that, and it takes me out.
No, that is 100%. I would think the biggest damning point against this arc of Naruto is it is a trend of anime and it is a trend of this series, but this is one of the worst examples it ever gets to. Of just having everything you've just seen explained and then visually getting the same information like that.
Yeah, I mean it's a visual medium. Like you don't need to. Yeah, it irritates me a lot. It's one of the more frustrating things because I want to be really invested in this cool ninja battle of wits. But
the music's playing and the animation looks great, and I think that's the issue as well. Is it's hard for me to say that there isn't a method to the madness because there's a reason why Naruto looks very consistently good. Is because it has those moments and it reuses the moments to pad out the episode time. It's like, but at the same time, it's just like
animation budgets being what they are.
Exactly,
like, I get it.
But at the same time, it's like, at what cost?
It's like watching a professional chess match. And like every 2 moves, the commentator stops and it's just like, now what just happened there?
And he takes the chess piece and like moves them back.
Yeah, he's like, the opponent moved from here to here, and that allowed him to put his bishop here, which is clever because and then someone's like, it's like the anime reaction.
Sorry about that, guys. Little technical thing on my end. But again, we were just still complaining about the pacing and the redoing of the fights being constant.
I mean, that's just a typical thing in anime. Like, even in later episodes, like even when you get to, like, the Rock Lee Gaara fight, which you can just tell, like, oh, we got a budget for this one. There are still, like, they still cut away to people talking and explaining, like, mid-fight as a way to pad out animation costs. And I get it. I'm not saying I don't get it, and on some level it's a necessary evil, but I feel like it's some of the worst that it gets in this first arc, unfortunately. And it, like I said, I just really love the whole battle of wits angle for high level ninja battles, and like it should be this cool fast paced game of chess, and it keeps grinding to a halt obnoxiously. I feel like we've talked a lot about the actual like Zabuza portion, but like that opening episode's pretty strong too, like the stuff before they even
the ninja arc where we kind of introduced Naruto and then we introduced the classmates and then Kakashi, and it's quite natural. What are your thoughts on those individual? Because I think the opening episode of Naruto is probably one of the strongest pilots I've seen. That's very
I was thinking that upon rewatch. I was just like, wow, this is good. Like, this is really solid.
And it's very fast-paced as well, which is, like, that it has enough content in it where you could get away with stretching it to 2 or 3 more episodes, but they don't shy away from it. It's all in that first episode.
And then you get to the next couple episodes, and you get to see a little bit of Naruto maturing after that first episode with him and Konohamaru. And, like, he still has, like, a long way to go in terms of maturity. But you get to see that. You get to actually see Naruto kind of try to be that mentor figure, which is a really interesting challenge after being introduced to him the way you're introduced to him. And like I said, I do think the series almost does too good of a job making these characters kind of just obnoxious, shitty little kids. Because that's what I was just watching this, like the whole arc where Naruto is the whole episode where Naruto is pretending to be Sasuke so he can like scam on Sakura, and Sakura is just like whatever. But then I also really like when like Sasuke like kind of tells Sakura off, and she kind of looks at Naruto a little bit differently, because she's just like, yeah, like what would having no parents be like? Like that would be lonely and horrible and miserable. And so like there are these moments where I'm just like, okay, I see what you're doing, but it's in between all of this obnoxious nonsense that I have to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is about how endearing that can be to you, right?
Yeah,
And it's weird as well going back to those, because the series is never like that again.
yeah.
It never. You watch those early episodes of Naruto before they go on the trip, and you could be convinced into thinking this is going to be episodic, wacky adventures. And it is quickly, it's quickly not that. I mean, the only hint you could get is that first episode goes pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And there's that moment with Sasuke again, and then when Kakashi at the end gives his speech about why it's important to believe in your teammates and why that is such a valuable lesson. They're like a literal war memorial. There are no punches being pulled here, but those again, the sexy jutsu and all of
I
it.
hate that.
Yeah, I know. It's just there's so much stuff going on there. It's just anime.
It's trying to set this tone so it can immediately subvert it.
Yeah,
and
this is the child's world.
It almost does it too well, to the point where I'm just kind of turned off by this now.
Mm-hmm. It's very clear. I think child's world that they leave.
Yeah. Anyone who bounces off in the first like 5 episodes, I'm just like, fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't skip on, because you do need.
You can't
that.
skip them.
You
need
need that context, and I don't think they're bad episodes. It's just so different than what you want from that series. It's so serious from that series it doesn't give a good impression of what it's going to be, but the first episode does. Like that first arc, and I think that's interesting. Compare, you mentioned earlier that Naruto very easily could become Haku. We see the moment an asshole tries to take advantage of Naruto and manipulates him into doing something, he does it immediately. And if Iruka was an asshole, if Iruka did a Zabuza, it would have happened the same way. We just see that Iruka is a kind mental figure. He offers him understanding, and he doesn't try and judge him for what he is, even though he has a rightful bias to, if he did do that, to have that reason. Just like, no, you can't judge people for who they are. You have to just take them for what they do, how their actions speak louder than words. And you get that from the first episode, and it makes you understand then why going forward, even as people betray him, even as he sees the worst people in the world, why Naruto's always like, no, that's not you, let's have a look into that, because someone did that for me, and it saved me, and I'm never gonna let that happen to someone else. And it's again one episode. Very rarely do you get that so quickly, so succinctly, so well paced and well done in that first bit. And then again, it's just the 2, 3, 4. Yeah, once Kakashi shows up, I think I'd be surprised if people drop off then, because I think the Kakashi training bit is when you start shift, like, though that's an entertaining bit. Like, it is still got some goofy elements, like the fingers up the ass. But anyone listening to this without the context of Naruto is just like, what? But like, that's still when you get to the ninja stuff, and that's what you think. But like the Konohara episode and like the school classroom episode, that's a rough time.
One of my favorite, and I'm just thinking of this now, one of my favorite things that I hadn't really thought of before is that we're introduced to, like, okay, Naruto has this demon 9-tailed fox spirit inside him, and because this 9-tailed fox spirit destroyed a lot of lives and a lot of people are now just kind of afraid and distrustful of Naruto, at least the adults. And you're just kind of like, but he's harmless. Like, he's just this kid. Like, yeah, I get that there's superstition, but he's just this harmless kid. And then you get to the end of the arc, and you actually see, like, oh no, this kid actually could be extraordinarily dangerous in the wrong hands. And so I love that. I like that we set that up, and then, like, we set up the 9-tailed fox thing and really do nothing with it for the entire first 20 episodes, other than just, it's there. You just know that this kid has this demon spirit inside of him, and you almost forget about it. Like, you're just like, whatever. Like, yeah, he's Like it's sad and everyone blames him even though it wasn't his fault. And then you get to the end of the arc when he thinks Sasuke is dead and the QB actually kind of comes out a little bit and you're just like, oh.
This is why an entire village is terrified of this man.
Yeah, because he has the potential to be ungodly powerful. I think that's really cool. Like you almost forget about it and then it brings it back and it's cool. I didn't even been thinking about that, but that's cool.
No, that's a good thing. Again, it's all established there, but they don't see. That's a good thing of like how it should be handled. Right? They explain it to you once, and then they leave it.
Yep.
And then when it comes back, you're like, oh yeah. That's something they could have, like, again, we already established Naruto can transform into things. So then when he transforms into the shuriken, your reaction is, oh, of course. Not, you don't need to get that told. You set that up. Don't play your hand too much. You did it. Is what it feels like. It feels like, again, a young writer really passionate about this idea and really wanting it to work so badly that he's trying to cover every single base he can. But he's trying too hard. He's like, no, you've got this. Which, again, does get better as Kishimoto gets more accustomed to it. But even with all that said, I think we can both agree that this first arc is really, really solid. I know I had a good time rewatching this, and you said at the beginning you had a good time. Has that changed the more we've talked about it?
No, I've appreciated it more. Even things I used to like, oh man, I hate that the Sharingan has like every power under the sun. I thought it was cool when it was just like you can copy any ability and that's what's scary about it. And I'm like, but then rewatching it, I'm like, no, they actually do set up that it has some like mystical illusion properties. Like they don't like go super hard into it, but you're like, no, it actually, even from the get-go, it does a little bit more than just copies abilities. So I didn't even realize that was set up that way, because I always thought like, oh, the Sharingan was introduced as you can copy any ability, and then they just were like, oh, but also it can do like 50 billion other things. But like, no, they actually pretty early on established that it's a little bit more complicated than that, and I kind of appreciated that, because I was like, okay, well, at least that's there. I still don't love that the Sharingan can do like a million things later, but at least there's a little bit more to what's going on when Kakashi uses it than at first blush, which is cool.
I think that's a very good point. There's a lot seeded here as well to keep you going if you do want to continue watching, but at the same time, you can watch this as just a taste of the negatives and the positive Naruto, and it should give you a good enough, is this for me? Do I want to keep watching? Can you push through the negatives? Because this is as bad as those elements ever get. But there are some moments here which are really good, which are also some of the best in the series. There are other things that rival it, but it's very hard to think of things that straight out just like, oh, this is way better, because this is such good stuff. Like, when it hits, it hits. So in terms of ratings, it's tough, but I'm gonna think, just counting the initial episodes, counting the bad stuff with the pacing as well, I do think it knocks it down from how strong the rest of it is, but I can still watch this quite comfortably. So just me personally, I would give the Zabuza arc of Naruto 4 out of 5 believes it. Yeah, believe it. Believe it, believe it.
That's what was nice watching it subbed this time.
Oh, you watched it subbed this time, nice.
Well, the links that you sent me were just naturally subbed. So
were they? Okay. Oh, fair enough then.
So I was just like, okay, I guess I'll watch it subbed. Fair enough. Which I'd never done before, so okay. I'm right there with you. I think what's here is actually pretty good. It just gets dragged down by a couple issues that are enough to knock it down a full point. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 fucking Zabuza Buster Swords.
Hell yeah.
That's one of my favorite bits in this, is they're like, oh, he's like the master of the art of silent killing. He's like a super assassin. Like, he's carrying a sword that's the size of him.
That's how good he is, though.
Can I change it to like 4 out of 5 Zabuza cow print armbands? Like arm warmers?
Sasuke has them too. Sasuke's got arm warmers.
But like Zabuza's are like, his first arm warmers are like cow print, and I don't know why.
Look, man, sometimes a ninja needs to accessorize. Alright. other than that wackiness, we need a discussion topic for next week.
Shit, I had one, and now I can't. Fuck. I don't know. Can we talk about Star Wars shipping?
Yeah, we can talk about it. It is such a phenomenon that I think it could fill an episode.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna talk about Star Wars shipping. We're gonna talk about Han Leia, Luke Leia. We're gonna talk about fucking Raylo and Kylux and Ginger Pilot and Dark Pilot. And why do I know all these shipping names off the top of my head?
R2D2C3PO question mark? Find out all of that and more on a saucy episode of Geeky Gentleman. I am the champion of the oppressed.
I am the Sonic Erotica Lover.
You should have changed that to the Star Wars Erotica Lover.
I mean, where's the lie, though?
That's true. See you next time.
And we have been your Geeky Gentlemen.
See you next time, folks.
Ba-doom, da-doom, 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 bye.